Welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at the Dunu SA6. So the SA6 is aptly named. It does feature 4 BAs, and 2 of those are very special Sonion Ocupass vented dual woofers. So you don't see that every day, even in most all BA sets. But up close, the build on these is actually really amazing. I mean, full resin build. You can see the beautiful BAs in there. So there's 2 Sonions and there's 4 Knolls. The top actually is stabilized wood, so again, just kind of really top-notch build quality. Even at $500, it's seems pricey, but for build quality like that, it's pretty amazing. This is not the stock cable. This is one of my nice HCK cables. I don't know, it was on my desk, grabbed it, matched the faceplate, so went with it. So let's kind of jump right into it. So like I said, it's two Sonion Ocupass vented dual woofers, 4 Knolls that are all custom made for Dunu. So really high-end quality drivers. Short story on this one, amazing build, very high quality drivers, well tuned, but there is a fly in the ointment for me. It's one of those things that small problem that it really kind of ruined my enjoyment of this set, and for me really getting comfortable with this set. So we'll get to that in a bit. The sound, very much a mild U-shape. Take a look at the graph. It's so kind of mild U-shape, kind of bass boosted neutral. Maybe you can find a little harmonish swing in there. I don't know, but pretty well tuned. So bass is actually quite nice level, hits the mids, and you get this really slow rise, less than a Harmon rise, into about 2.5, and then it plateaus, and then it bumps up to 4.5, which is my fly in the ointment, and then it drops again between 5 and 6, and then it bumps up again. So pretty much all good, up until about this point for me, but yeah, not too much else to say on the graph. So the bass. So it does have BA bass, like I said, and some people judge BA bass based on how close it comes to traditional dynamic driver bass, and I will say this one is pretty close. Not 100%, probably not going to fool you, but I also didn't dwell on it. I mean, I think it's fine. The level they use is very fun and satisfying. The texture, like a BA bass, is going to be a little harder to hear, along with the lighter slam and a very fast decay. I think these are all traditional BA bass things, and not surprisingly, you get them on the SA6 as well. But generally, I think the bass is actually quite good. And there's no wow moment where I'm like, this is a DD or is it a BA. It didn't really go there, but it definitely has this switch on the side, which will, I think it was actually called atmospheric. I think it was called atmospheric, and it basically just gives you a little bit of more warmth to the lower end. So I definitely preferred that setting. And one of my nitpicks would be on this one, it sometimes sounds non-linear. And what I mean by that is dynamic drivers tend to ramp up pretty smoothly, and you take a track like Dead Mouse's Strobe. When you listen to the low end of it, it tends to ramp up from quite low to a nice level of rumble, but it's usually a very smooth ramp up. And on this one, it seems like there's kind of a lighter bass, and then it kind of jumps to quite a bit bass, and it didn't quite feel as linear in that ramp up or as smooth as it should have been, but really just kind of nitpicking it. But it happened enough times that I just thought it was kind of noticeable to me. So the mids, quite nice, is again kind of like the bass. Everything is quite nice, very good. It's just kind of a solid set. This one, like I said, you flip the switch, it's a little bit warmer than I expected for an all BA set, but I'm not complaining there. But I really do love the BA-ness of the mids. That clarity and detail and the resolution and how smooth they are with high quality drivers, especially on lots of instruments. But the fly in the ointment for me are those vocals, and they just get higher and thinner in that 4.5 area. So it doesn't look like much, but I'm really sensitive to 4.5, and to kind of plateau out and go lower, bump up, and then drop lower again, it just adds a whole lot of emphasis to a part that I'm already sensitive to, and it's hard to ignore. It kind of nags at you, and becomes kind of like this persistent annoyance. And for me, that's what happened in a lot of vocals. And someone like Hayley Williams, that song Simmer, her voice just hits it with a whole lot of fatigue, and I sort of had to put it down last night because it's just too much after a while. Just a really sensitive area for me, and this one and that song just happens to hit it almost perfectly. So what ends up happening is you hear sort of an overemphasis, and for me, it takes it off of a natural, relaxed sound that the rest of the set has. You got this really nice bass that's not all that intense, and the treble isn't even all that intense either. So everything is sort of in this relaxed presentation, and then you get this weird overemphasis on one little part of it, and it just sounds odd. It just sounds off. So that is my nitpick, and it's kind of more of a nitpick, and it was really the fly in the ointment, the one that really helped me or prevented me from enjoying this one as much as I really should. But if 4.5, that area doesn't bother you at all, you'll probably feel a little bit of extra presence, a little bit of extra detail. That's why people tend to bump that area. That's what it does for you. So take that under consideration if you're considering the SA6. I mean, there's tons and tons of great reviews on it. I just happen to be one that's sensitive to that area, but if you're not sensitive to area, then ignore that. So the treble, and it's going to have this same little problem because 4.5, that's actually low treble, so it's again really good. Not a wow moment on the treble either, and a lot of it is this really peaked doing it as early as it is at 4.5. And like I said, it comes across as peaky to me because the mids kind of gentle rise, peaks here, tons of emphasis here, not as much here. So these instruments kind of fall back a little bit. Everything dominates here, and then it kind of bumps right back up again. But it just sounds a little bit inconsistent, a little bit peaky. I'm not really sure what the word is there, but depending on your library, you're going to hear more or less of that. And there's certain tracks that, especially more instruments in that area, the more you're going to hear it. On tracks that only have one or two instruments, and maybe they're more lower or more higher, you don't really notice at all. But for me, this lower treble tended to dominate to my ear, and it really lowers the dynamics of the upper treble as well. It's kind of a weird, and I've had this problem on a few sets. It's almost like looking over a hill, and the 4.5 is the hill, and everything up to 4.5 sounds great. Seeing over the hill, it becomes really harder to hear because this 4.5 area is dominating my ear, and it becomes really difficult to hear the upper treble. And for me, it always throws the balance off. You always have this domination, this overemphasis at that point, and the whole thing kind of sounds off to me. So, like I said, very library dependent, and it's probably going to range from very good to troublesome is what happens when you hit that side too hard. So staging, again, I mean, some of these are kind of related. The width and the depth and the imaging and the staging, all these things kind of get thrown together with how well the treble is presented and how you hear it and how those frequencies are hitting your ear. And the staging, to me, it comes across not as big as it should be. It projects really quite forward, and there's a bunch of depth there, but it needs to be bigger. And part of it is, when I said this, it kind of lowers the dynamics of the treble. You lose the layering, the separation here in the technicals. And a song like Go Go Penguin, Signaling the Noise, when all the instruments are going, it really does, it clusters right in the middle, and you lose that, $500 full price sound. It tends to sound, it's not muddy at all, but you just don't have the width and the space for everything to be presented as it should for a set at that price. So, yeah, I don't know what to say about the staging. sometimes it sounds really good, and sometimes, especially on the busier tracks, it kind of loses me. And you combine this with this, and it was a set that I just couldn't really get comfortable with. So, but if you're interested, I would definitely recommend picking it up used, and especially if you're not 4K tolerant or sensitive. It is built like a resin tank, like I said. The build quality is super, and definitely one of those sets that I would look for on the secondary market, especially if you don't know if you're sensitive to that part or not. So that is it. That is a quick impression on the SA6. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you next time.